So myths have always been part of our lives in the form of fairy tales that were passed down generation to generation. As we grow older, we become skeptical. We reason with ourselves that such magical creatures aren't real. And a reason for this is science. As science progresses with time, it discovers new theories that prove that all these mythical creatures do not exist, and legends that were centuries old are now torn apart by the hard truth. So what impact does this have on storytelling? Is science the end to legends and credible oral storytelling? With children exposed at a young age to science, is it possible for them to still believe in an imaginary world? Today, I would like to talk to you about the paradox of science, which, while crushing myths, also seems to be involuntarily encouraging them. So let's take the example of the werewolf myth. We all know the story of the man who transforms into a wolf at the sight of the full moon. Obviously, we know that it doesn't exist, and we have long since stopped believing in it. But do you know that some part of this legend is true? Indeed, it seems that the full moon triggers some bizarre reactions among the men. So I found it pretty interesting, and I decided to conduct my own personal research to see to what extent does myth mesh with reality. And I asked 20 people among my male entourage to if they were sensitive to the full moon or not. And the majority of them answered yes. So it is equally interesting to know how the sensitivity is expressed. Among my many subjects, some said that they felt particularly irritated on the nights of the full moon. Some said that they felt particularly sexually aroused. Others had alcoholic tendencies. And the majority of them said that they felt very restless and they couldn't fall asleep. So a question that might come up now is whether this bizarre behavior is due to a psychological reaction to the legend. And by that I mean that we know the legend, so we automatically and involuntarily associate ourselves to it, or whether these instincts come naturally to us before we have even heard about the legend before. So in an attempt to shed light on what has long since been a figure to popular legend, the moon has indeed some influence on our behavior and the quality of our sleep. This has been confirmed scientifically by a study researchers led in 2014 at the University of Semmelweis of Budapest in Hungary by Marta Novak and Cecilia Zita-Turani. It has been shown that the full moon has an influence on the quality of our sleep. The heart and the respiratory rate increase, and the muscles and the brain work more intensively for the majority of the patients. So now remains a question that scientists have yet to uncover, and that is, why does the full moon affect our behavior? Could it be a variation of the gravitational attraction to the moon, this phenomenon that explains the tides? Or could it be the existence of a biological rhythm affecting our hormone production? These are some questions that science hasn't uncovered yet. But did you notice the irony here, that science contributes somewhat to the myth of the werewolf? Another example I can come up with is the myth of the mermaid. Same as for the werewolves, we know they do not exist, and the sailors who have claimed to have seen them before have probably seen a yet undiscovered marine creature instead. So, did you know, however, the existence of a case called sirenomelia, also known as mermaid syndrome? This is a deformity that causes the legs to remain fused together and to not split apart at the birth of the child. The existence of such deformities, clinically attended to, doesn't decrease the belief in mermaids, but at the contrary, seems to reinforce the legend. So in some ways, science does contribute to the existence of myths. So to the question, is it still possible to believe in legends today? The answer will have to be yes. Science doesn't necessarily annihilate century-long myths and legends. And though we as adults know the truth, storytelling with its legends will continue to live on, and we can always count on the fertile imagination of a child. Thank you.